Hey, good morning. Justin,
Brandon.
what's happening?
Morning, sir.
Great morning it is. Um, we had a lot of good action last week.
It was a great day to be in the woods.
So last minute, I did it again. This is Brandon Malson, Justin Smith with Tracks and Sign, talking out of Michigan today. And last week, Justin and I threw up a last minute Hail Mary trip and said, instead of going fishing in single digit weather, which would still be a lot of fun on the local rivers around here, we decided to hop in trucks and head to his family's property in Oscoda, and we just got a nice snow, so we wanted to see a number of things, but we got a lot done. Um, we wanted to well, one, look at some trail cams uh, that have been sitting out there for weeks. We wanted to find where deer, just any kind of animal, game activity, walking in and out of the property, where they were going, where they were hanging out, where bedding we thought was. Are there areas where we can add different access points or close things off or open things up? So we did a lot. We'll get into it throughout the conversation, but and of course we ran out of time. But um, any day in the woods is better than I can't think of much that's better than just spending the entire day wandering the woods. What about you?
No, I mean it was great. I mean, I was like, well, we're either going to be freezing on the river or freezing in the woods, and so we broke a sweat, stayed a little
Yeah,
warm.
I would say yeah, I was sweating. Uh, had some pizza for lunch. got some outside work done. Um, that was an awesome time. When we went up there was some predictions made of where things were, and then also hopes. There's some areas of property that I think you said, like between the back. Let's call it the what northeast section of the property down to the Deer Hotel. Have you ever, before we walked that, did you ever go through there?
No, so there were definitely parts I've never stepped on before.
And gosh, I can't imagine the summertime, but some of that property. So a nice chunk of that land is marshland. Well, it's like a swamp marshland environment. And gosh, even when it's frozen or quote unquote frozen, it is difficult to walk through.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is we didn't see any tracks going through there. But let's back up a second. So we get up there and get unloaded, and brought a couple ATVs and throw on the boots and just start trekking through the woods. Walk up one side of the property where Justin and I had been talking about adding an access point. His main stand is in the back northwest corner of the property. And so right now there's a two track that goes back there, but also varies away from the fence line. And there's a horse farm to the left. So not far from the fence, but we were thinking maybe at some point it could be cool to create just like a not a two track size trail, but like a walking trail just against the fence line. Or you could just ask the neighbors to walk on theirs, but it'd be better to be on your own property. So we looked at opportunity to do that. Right now, there's just over the years of clearing and stuff that'd be difficult to certainly get done before next season. So we got out there, looked at some areas where Justin had been talking about building some or clearing some ground to build a bigger food plot that his blind overlooks or in near proximity. And then we continued where we think the deer are coming from, state land, hundreds of acres of state land right north of the property. So started hiking back there, and where'd you say you were taking me at first?
So
running water.
yeah, so originally I took you to some running water, and then we ended up finding that stream.
Yep.
Back in the
Found a
state.
running stream.
Yep. And then
Not frozen.
yeah, not frozen. And then that same little stream comes into our property right in front of where my current tree stand is. So it was cool
Beautiful
to see
setup.
how far. Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful setup. It was interesting to see how far back. I mean, obviously the stream didn't start there where we saw back on state land, but it was cool to see where that water was running pretty good back there.
So to put it in perspective, the snow came, 2 days prior?
Yep.
So in 2 days, deer aren't just sitting on the ground like for the 2 days not moving. They're moving daily. They're eating 5 times a day. They're out and about. I don't know how big all their ranges are currently, but at the same time, if you think deer are supposed to be there, this is a good time to get out there if you have snow in your area to go look and confirm that yep, that's in fact where they're moving. And I'm not saying that they're using all the same trails that they would be in the summertime or during prime hunting time and rut and whatnot, but you can get a good sense of where they're moving to, what corridors they're using. And it was very apparent that a lot of areas had no deer movement, even where we thought maybe it would be, until we hit this water source. We pick up on a trail, and gosh, it just, and we started just following trails. There's a lot of coyote activity. I think we're coming up on prime coyote breeding months, but there was a lot of canine tracks in the snow, a lot of bunny tracks. But once you come up to a deer trail, and it leads you right into a corridor, a lot of activity. We found really fresh bedding areas, either solo bucks, big oval areas where they were laying either that night or the previous day, where it was still frozen around the edges from their body temperature. Pretty cool.
I mean, wasn't that one spot one of your bigger deer beds you've ever seen?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's you can tell, like, if it's a small little baby doe, because we saw a number of those, but some of these spots it was incredible. They're huge,
Yeah.
big body deer laying there, and the tracks. So you can get a good sense. We didn't find any sheds, but you can get a good sense of what's walking around there just by the size of tracks that are being left imprinted in the snow. That was pretty neat too. Oh my gosh, the hair on my arms is sticking up right now. I'm
seriously.
so fired up. It's almost like talking about turkey. Yeah, that was a really cool adventure. I'm grateful that Justin was able to take me back there and just see the magic that takes place on public land. And what we got excited about is they're running, it's running parallel to the Smith property. So they're obviously checking for something. There's bedding right behind there, and it gives us an opportunity to layer up and maybe pull some of those doe beds in the property or on the property line there, by putting food plots against the line there, areas to create some doe bedding, and then keep those buck corridors active where they're checking for doe scent during the prime hunting times. So we found all sorts of stuff like that back there, even some ambush areas that we could set back on public land, which gets me excited also. Areas that, while I was hunting back there, majority of the season, I'm in one area that's awesome, but I'm looking across marsh area into pine ridges or pine lines, and then you're looking on maps and you're seeing what's beyond that, but never really walking back there because it was hunting season, so I didn't want to mess around with that. But now that we were able to really spend some time back there, it confirmed a lot of what we were thinking, and it also made us rethink a few of the stand placements and then how we're going to manipulate the property this offseason to get ready for 2021. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it did confirm. So when Brandon and I were walking around, we're on state land, walking essentially completely around the outskirts of our property, and
almost parallel with the property line.
Yeah, and
give or take a couple hundred yards.
Yep. Yeah. I would. Yeah, a couple hundred yards for sure. And the deer movement was literally just going in like pretty much in a circle. Like we followed it the whole time. It wrapped around our property, confirmed the deer movement, especially where we thought deer were coming from, which you were spot on about where they were coming from back on state land. I was correct where I thought they were coming from, where I was sitting up in my tree stand in the northwest corner. And then we found that really nice opening, directly back in the middle, the backside of the property, over towards where you hunt. And it's just, I asked you a question last week, Brandon, that what do you think the biggest area of opportunity is? And it was a pretty simple question. I just wanted to hear your thoughts, but you said food. I agree with you 100% because now that food will give them a reason to come in. Because they're literally just like circling our property. Super frustrating, but it also makes a lot of sense. So I think exactly what we went up there to do on Thursday, we did, and it was nice for you to see that area in the northwest corner where I'm currently hunting, where we walked around that perimeter of where I want to clear. It was about an acre.
Yep.
Yeah, about an acre.
Oh wait, around your side?
Yeah. Or was that a half acre?
Yeah, it was between a half and a full.
Yeah.
Depending on how far we go back. But, I mean, you're also keeping some of those mature trees up there. But, at least a half acre.
Yeah, so it was just nice to kind of put it all into perspective. And I think we have a really good game plan about what needs to be done in order to bring those deer onto the property.
Gosh, and then so we looked at where they were coming from state, and then spent the next couple hours just looking at just different areas on your property, your stand in particular, which about a half acre to an acre it can be cleared out for a nice food plot opportunity with some switchgrass out there and widen some of the lanes coming in from state. Then there is the opposite side, still the north side of the property against state land, but there's 2 to 3 acres that can be cleared out there with a huge highway of deer activity coming in from state land right in there right now. But it disappears almost at your property line, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So let's say you put another big food source back there, and then there's no way, at least right now, but before the 2021 season, to go from there to the front of the property. You have to go out on the state land, find the ORV trail, come down up to the road, and then the road over to your property. And the idea of getting to the deer hotel from the road, I think, is awesome.
Yeah.
Leveling out those ponds so it's not like a steep incline down to the pond will be awesome. Making that whole 3.5 to 5 acre spot all around those ponds, a big food source, like a sanctuary, is awesome. And then around the deer hotel, burning all that area, putting switchgrass pockets around a food plot. Those are all the areas that we at least looked at while we were there.
Yeah, and then, for instance, connecting the half acre clearing by me, and then connecting that with that clearing in the back side of the property where we found that where some of it was on our property, some of it's on state, like creating, the funnel and a corridor for them to travel for their secondary food source.
Yeah, so there's the spot right in front of your stand, and connect that to that. That was like just a natural opening out on public land where we saw it was like a corridor. There's game trails meet and cross and all in this like open area, which was interesting. It's not a huge open area, but it's big enough. What was it, like a quarter-acre opening?
Yeah.
Surrounded by real thick stuff. So have that leading over to your blind. Also open that up to lead over to that 2-3 acre plot by the back ground blind area, was that northeast area.
Yep.
And then create and have openings going from both of those plots into, I mean, your side's already done. Like all that stuff already leads to different trails that will be going throughout your property, but that back northeast corner, 2 or 3 acre food plot, then create some trails that connect with the 2 tracks that you've already excavated throughout the property. Not that you're going to use them to access that stand, but you'll certainly want them to be planting and off-season stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'll probably put switchgrass around all those 2 tracks too. I mean, why not?
Yep.
Create those 2 tracks, lay seed down in there late season. We rarely use the quads, after, the beginning of October pretty much. So those, I mean, we lay late season food plot, all those, I mean, I think it's coming together. A lot of work still needs to be done, but I think what we confirmed last week and the game plan, I think it's first of all, it's very reasonable to get a lot of this work done in the next several months. And then, set up some cameras and just start watching and make adjustments as needed. I think one of the big things that's going to really need to be focused on after all the work's done and when you're coming up with, your plan for actual hunting season is figuring out a way into the blinds. I agree with you. My dad's way into the deer hotel, I certainly believe he should come in from the road. And then, I don't know. I know the neighbors at the horse ranch, they would not mind me walking the fence line, but I'm not sure if I want to, have to go onto their property to access to get to my spot. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I've walked the same corridor this whole season to get to my spot, and I've had deer, especially during rut, come down that same trail that I came in on, a few minutes later. So it's interesting to me because they didn't even could care less about my scent during the rut, but during later season and early season, it's be a little bit more strategic about that. I don't know how, because we're butt up right against the barbed wire there.
How many acres, Justin, do you think there are in the middle of the property that will be left alone for the no scent blown in, nobody walking through? How many acres do you think that is in the middle?
15, 20 acres? I would say majority of the property.
It's totally get left alone, and there's enough shrubs and woody browse and water. and then now that they'll have, hopefully the plan is to hold deer there, or hold deer in the back of the north end of the property on public. And it's really difficult to get there if you don't have property where yours is, Justin. To get back there, it's most hunters, if any, will be trying to capitalize on something like that. But the goal is to hold them in the middle of the property or right behind the property, and that means there's a lot of areas where they can stay and feel safe, have access to food, water, shelter, cover, and hopefully start bringing back some big bucks
Yes.
during the season. And then off season or summer, they go out to the ag fields and then come back September, late September, October, November, December, January.
It was a lot of fun on Thursday going into the forbidden places. You know,
That
just
was
seeing,
cool.
yeah, it was sweet seeing all their bedding and there was some massive tracks back in there. There was a couple of them that we just, they're big deer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're drag, and you can tell when it's a real big deer. Big deer, they tend to get lazy. I mean, they're quiet, but they will drag their feet. And so you start seeing these huge tracks, with drag marks leading up to them, and it's just super exciting.
Yeah, it really is.
And you come
really
across a huge bed, and just what a cool opportunity to go walk around in those areas that you're just absolutely not supposed to go walk into during season, and have the snow to almost be like a fossil of what has happened in the past.
Seriously, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Pretty neat.
It was really neat. So what do you think okay, so being that what you know now, do you have any plans? Like, are you going to, so back where you're currently hunting on state, do you plan on making any adjustments? Do you plan on moving or maybe having more than one spot? Because I know you have, I think 2 spots you've hunted from. Do you have any idea or strategy knowing what you know now?
Yeah, well, so I've hunted from 2 trees back there in a ground blind, and the second tree that I hunted for at the end of bow season and the beginning of, was I up there for rifle?
Yeah, you were up there opening day.
Of rifle? Yeah, oh no, I was the day before opening day. I was up there with a bow, and then for rifle it was bad conditions, so that's when I came down into the ground blind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was really, really windy and rainy.
So I love the area that I'm in for the ground blind location. I think that's good. And depending on the wind, we saw that huge deer access walk, that travel corridor right in front of there. Now the tree that I hunted from is crossing that. So I'm gonna put an X on that tree, even though I like it and it overlooks the marsh area there, and you can have a shot at the pine line across the marshy area. I'm gonna have to figure out something different for there, but I like the ground blind area. And then the first tree that I hunted from was about 100 yards closer into the other opening, which early season I really like because they come from, and I guess it depends on wind too, because I don't want wind blowing out in that open area, but there's a lot of browse, a lot of green, a lot of, it's like a big food source just outside of the pines on a pine, hardwood marsh transition. It's all packed in there. So I think I'm going to figure out a different second spot, but I'm keeping the ground blind spot, and I got to figure out a second spot that I would like to capitalize on for a late season hunt if I don't get it done in early season. Right now, I think back there's a real good early season hunt.
Yes. It'll be interesting when we clear where the ground blind back there, when we clear all that and we plant back in there, what will happen?
So ground blind, not my ground blind area on the public. Yeah. We're talking about the northwest corner of Justin's property is where his dad has a ground blind set up back there. And we're going to clear 2-3 acres worth of just worthless brush and turn it into a food plot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when that happens, what it'll do. Because, I mean, you're not far behind that.
No, what is it? A few 100 yards?
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's not far at all.
Was it like 300 yards or something like that?
I was pretty bummed, though, when so where Brandon's describing where my dad has his ground blind back towards the state property, and then we walked between the ground blind and the deer hotel, and it took us, we were gone for about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours, and it took us more time to walk from between that ground blind and my dad's deer hotel than it did to walk all the way around on state land because of how thick it was. And I was a little disappointed at just how, like, I don't think we'll ever touch it.
No.
Like, the only thing I can think of is creating, like, maybe just like a 10-foot wide 2-track, but like, I just feel,
Wow.
yeah, I feel like time, effort, energy. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, spending that time, effort, energy and applying it elsewhere, that would just be better.
Yeah, the only way you could really get through that that water would be, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways, but one way that comes to mind is like wood chips. So just building up like a mulch, almost like you're mulching branches and stuff, and you're building up a pathway from deer hotel or one of the main paths at the front of the property to get back there. Could be interesting. No way it's going to happen between now and 2021.
Oh gosh, no. I mean,
but something to think about down the road.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a few year project by how we do it.
Also the length of your property. So that's a commitment right there.
I mean, just think everything we've done now, it's been 8 years. And if, it's so interesting when, I mean, Brandon, obviously you've seen it, but when we bring up like other friends and things like that, and we're showing them and, they think it's cool, but they just have no idea the time, effort, energy it's taken to do what we have done already. I mean, my dad, when my dad was telling you about where we currently have the trailer, when my dad was like, yeah, you couldn't even see any of this, how it was completely, thick, and like, it was literally like the woods. Like, it is just insane the amount of work that it takes to do what we've done. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. It's great. You learn a lot. You get a few accidents in there for some good stories afterwards. And yeah, it's wild.
But it also, it gives, so the transformation that has taken place on your property and there's work that's continued to be done. So people that love enhancing deer habitat, game management, QDM practices, bringing in all wildlife, because we've only been talking about deer and sprinkled in some turkey, but in some of these upcoming episodes we'll continue talking about the Smith property, but there's a whole waterfowl and bird angle that's going to take place, which is very, very cool. And we'll get into that, but it gives people hope that you don't have to have thousands of acres or hundreds and hundreds of acres to make an impact on not just a successful yearly deer harvest, but you can have a shot at making an impact on the environment overall, the deer habitat overall, or any kind of species habitat overall on a small parcel of land while having a blast doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. It really is so fun. Like,
yeah.
When I had a buddy that was coming into town on Thursday, and they invited us over, not a large group, social distancing, all that. And they're like, what are you doing today? I'm like, oh, I'm going up north to walk in the woods. And they're like, what? It's like 20 degrees. I'm like, actually it's 19, but yeah. And we're out there just having fun, laughing.
Blast.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't even. It was and we appreciate it, and it's great to, you know, Brandon to have those moments and do all that, and then, you know, just I love seeing how things do come together. You know, it takes time, and I know some of the work we've put in previous years, and I've seen what it's produced deer wise, and it's exciting. It gives me something, you know, all of us, to, you know, something to look forward to. It's good. It's good for the mind, body, and soul.
Absolutely. So anybody out there, encourage you to get out, especially if you have snow on the ground. Go in those forbidden places. Check out what's moving. We also saw what we left out there is we saw a lot of coyote tracks, but you know, there's some. It looked like some bobcat stuff, which both Justin and his dad saw during season this year, and pretty certain we ran into a nice black bear trail.
Oh yes.
And then a couple suspicious looking dens that, you know.
Hey, that one.
It makes you.
That one I walked over, I had my hand on my side piece.
Oh, yeah. I was locked and loaded just in case. You know, you never want to have that situation open up. But when we're walking back there and it's quiet in those woods, and you stumble across the wrong scenario, hopefully it ends up favorable and nobody gets harmed. But jeez.
Yeah, a
couple of those scenarios got nervous for sure.
We're like standing behind trees, like just poking our heads around the corner, like trying to poke in.
Yeah, like I don't want to go disturb anything, but also I'm trying to follow this game trail, and I need to know where this ends. So hopefully a bear doesn't come out and maul me.
Yeah, well, we know for sure. There's 3 back there. I have a pretty good idea where one is, but I'm not. Like, I wouldn't like bet my life or anything on it, but I'm pretty confident I know where one is. So
yeah, well, the den's built up. There's a lot of fallen trees, and the whole like root system has come up, and then just things have been created around it and dug down into, and it's some pretty cool wild game living quarters back there. That was fun,
and it was sweet too to see the, you know, obviously it's not the elevation changes that you have down in Ohio, but it was cool to see the little ridges and the elevation changes.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was pretty neat. You know, it's hard to see that. Yeah, it is.
Running streams and whatnot.
Yeah, ton of marsh.
Well, any last thoughts?
No, Brandon, close us out.
Well, we have decided today that we are going down to Ohio to give it one last ditch effort to harvest a deer. Bow season ends down there this coming weekend, and Justin and I are going to head down late Thursday evening and rough it, sleep in the truck, sleep in the blind, and try to get it done all day Friday and then head back. So stay tuned for some updates there. We're excited to talk about that. And then the following week we have 2 new partners that we're hoping to make some deals with and bring in board the Tracks and Sign ecosystem. So a lot to announce upcoming here, a lot to look forward to. That's all I got.
Awesome.
What do you say?
Yeah, no, it sounds good, Brandon.
And like always, if there's any causes or associations or any guests you'd like to hear from, we're going to start inviting folks onto the pod to have conversations or truck talk. And we always love to give back. So if there's any opportunities or people you'd like us to talk to, or if you'd like to come on yourself, please reach out to fishhuntfind at tracksandsign.com. Direct message us on any of the social channels. Don't forget to like, and we appreciate all the love and support.
Boom!
Have a good day, guys. Take care.